Alright, what's up, YouTube? Boxing and sports family. It's K Rod here. I wanted to make this video to talk about the Brooklyn Nets getting basically swept the fuck out by the Boston Celtics. Yes, so let's get right into it. This should probably be a good spicy video to get some discussion going. So, yeah, let's get right to it. So, unfortunately, the Brooklyn Nets had lost in Game 4, all 4 games in a row, to the Boston Celtics. They got swept 4-0 in a 7 games must system in the NBA playoffs. For those of you that don't know, once your team hits it to the playoffs, you need to have to go through a 4-round series of games in which you have to win at least 4 out of the 7 games that are bested to potentially win the game. So the thing is that with the NBA is that it's definitely a very, very difficult league with the best competition that's put in line. And I say the biggest issue that I have with the NBA is that the competition itself always changes, and you never know what type of style you're going to get out of a team. And, I just find it very interesting based off of the level of competition that has grown in the boxing world or the basketball world. I'm sorry. The thing is that, the old, once upon a time great competition have always been the type of competition to be, touted as one of the best up and coming talent to take over. And then fast forward a couple generations, that would later then become, the new, rookie generation of the class of 2020 or 2021 to just come right in and just take over. And take a look at guys like Ja Morant. He's a great example. He's only been in the NBA for at least a year, and I'm pretty sure this is his very first NBA playoffs that he has been in. And actually, yeah, he's actually been with the Grizzlies for 3 years, but looking at his resume of how long he's been in the league, he's been in the league for about hold on. I'm almost positive that I could pull it up, but if I can't, then I apologize. Let's see. I'm almost positive that he's been in the league for a very, very long time, because I'm almost positive he has been here. Yeah, the stats. Let's see, in the regular season. Yeah, so he started in 2019. He was playing for 67 games. He was averaging 17.5 points, averaging a 77% field goal range, 3.9 rebounds, 7.3 assists, 3.3 turnovers, 0.9 steals, 0.3 blocks, and 1.6 personal fouls, which that doesn't really matter, but then after that, he evolved to increasing more higher numbers and 19.1 points with 4 rebounds, 7.4 assists, and that was like a 0.1% increase from the 7.3% assists. And now this year, yeah, those are from the years of 2019 and 2020 leading into 2021. So his 2020 stats were pretty decent, and then 2021 was very, very well. And now leading into 2022, even though he's only played 57 games, he's been averaging 27.4 points a game while playing 33 minutes, and he's averaging 4.4 defensive rebounds, 5.7 rebounds, 6.7 assists, 3.4 turnovers, and 0.4 blocks, and only averaging 1.5 fouls. So, I have to give it to Ja Morant, because he's a very, very good player, and that just shows the development of NBA talent, of how good they can be. Because the thing is that the competition will very well get better, but the problem is just that the league itself is very big with the level of competitive nature that you can get from the level of opposition. And I really do have to say that the league has really turned into a very, very good, how should I say, like it's turned into a good stable of young Black American talent, or just talent in general, that have just skyrocketed and taken over the sport of basketball. And it just shows that American basketball players, like we all come in different shapes, colors, and sizes, of how well that, how well that we can actually play, and just how good that that the world competition has really skyrocketed based off of how good some of these players like really do play. But I will say, just based off of like how we've been, how we've just been seeing like the rise of competition, like in regards to the Brooklyn Nets, they had like a pretty good decent season. Obviously the team itself was never at its best, but guys like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Ben Simmons, which that was like one of like their good players. They've been those type of people to be be in those good positions. And the Brooklyn Nets, they did like a pretty good job managing their team as a collective organization. But as far as like their season goes, their season wasn't really like the best. Obviously they had people hurt, guys like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Blake Griffin, and Ben Simmons, who recently got traded to the team. But I guess like the thing is that the Brooklyn Nets, they were supposed to skyrocket a lot sooner in the NBA. And I think the biggest issue is that, like when they were supposed to scale higher in the league, they were supposed to do bigger and better things to make sure that their ceiling as a team got better. So I definitely do credit them for doing the things that they were supposed to do. But I guess that the biggest issue was that the management and the backdoor frontline handlers that were not really looking too good with with the trades, and not making sure things were being put in place to make sure things were being put in a right position. Because the Nets, they have good talent, but the problem with them is just simply their chemistry. And I think obviously that's really the biggest issue with the Brooklyn Nets, because with the Brooklyn Nets is that they can do well at as a team, but that the issue is is that when you have really, really good high level mega superstars trying to be the greatest at what they do, then that's really where the team itself falls apart. And I thought that the Brooklyn Nets had a pretty good ceiling coming into the NBA, but the biggest issue is just obviously, their lack of commitment, making sure that, that the players, got enough playing time, and making sure that, the team actually ran good plays where things actually, scale to a much higher level. So that was really the biggest problem with the Brooklyn Nets front court and back court. I thought Kyrie Irving, he did a good job with what he could do, but the biggest issue with him is just him not being focused enough outside of basketball to make sure that he had his bearings up correctly. Because he is a good player, don't get it twisted, but the biggest issue that I really have with Kyrie Irving is that he was never really the type of guy to always really be focusing on the right things. And I've always kind of thought of that to be such a bad thing for him, because he does have talent, but the biggest problem that I have for him is just that he's never made his talent actually shine at the bigger level. So for the problem that actually scaled the hardest was that Kevin Durant was also getting hurt too, and I thought that the Brooklyn Nets had its biggest downfall at that point, because if you really think about it, if KD wasn't hurt in that time frame, then I think Kevin Durant would have done a much better job at doing the things that he should have done leading up to that point. But the issue obviously was that Kevin Durant just wasn't at the right mindset, coming back from his previous injuries coming from Golden State when I believe he tore his ACL or MCL, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, Kevin Durant, he tried what he had to do, but at the same token, I just kind of felt like how the team was actually operating, it definitely wasn't at the level of which we could actually say things actually got good, for the team. But I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, I definitely give a lot of credibility to Kevin Durant because he definitely went, he went through like a pretty good season, with the um, with the Brooklyn Nets. But on top of that, like if he didn't get hurt throughout the season, I think the record would have been a lot better. And then on top of that, he came back from the Olympics, so he was actually not really going through like the best time of like actually getting like enough time to rest. So he was constantly playing to get the gold medal back to the United States during the time, during the time of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics or 2021 Olympics. So, I mean, I definitely give up the man his credibilities, and he definitely did what he had to do. But I guess the biggest issue is just obviously, he wasn't really in that right state of mind to have things, built correctly. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I definitely give his credibility of where he stands. But, he definitely deserves like a lot better. I never really thought of it to really just be, in that mindset of actually thinking that he can actually do something, a lot bigger coming back to the NBA. But I mean, Kevin Durant tried his best, and I mean, I definitely give him a lot of a lot of respect for what he had to do, for the team. But as far as getting swept by the Boston Celtics, I didn't think that was a good idea for the Nets to get, swept out. I thought that the series would actually be competitive, and I thought the Nets would do what they had to do to actually win. But I guess apparently the Boston Celtics were a bad style matchup from the beginning because their transition in defense and the offensive strategy of what they had coming into those games just didn't work out correctly. And I mean, I would probably have to let the blame on Steve Nash because I don't think he's like that type of guy to do very well with coaching either. So I honestly think that Steve Nash shouldn't have been a coach to begin with. I definitely would have been better with a guy like Mark Jackson or Tyronn Lue or somebody that has good B-level to A-level coaching experience. So, I mean, I let the man his credibility for like what he had to do for the Nets for Steve Nash. But at the end of the day, the Nets should have had like somebody at the high level in coaching in general to actually do what they had to do. So, I mean, the problem, like with the Brooklyn Nets is just that they're just not that type of team to actually, have these type of years where they just do absolutely garbage. And I would like to say that, it's just obviously just due to the coaching because the Nets GM management is actually pretty stable. I think that the guy that runs up the Nets is like a Russian, but I mean, like the thing is like, the Brooklyn Nets, they have like a good front office management with like what they do with like draft picks and making sure trades go by well. And I thought that the biggest thing that that they should have done sooner was getting Ben Simmons a lot sooner. Just simply because Ben Simmons, he's a really really good player, for like what he can provide, but on top of that, I think the chemistry and his, his physical activity window coming into the playoffs would have been a lot better if he had not been injured from the season itself. But I think Ben Simmons could have definitely done some damage leading into the playoffs, but I think that was like the biggest issue. He wasn't getting anything done for the Brooklyn Nets, and I think that injury that he had, suffered, had definitely deprecated his activity coming into the playoffs. So, I mean, Ben Simmons, very well talented player, but he really needs to start stepping up his game a bit more if he wants to actually make any noise in the playoffs itself. I think that's really like the biggest issue for him. When he's not active, he's not able to like do the things that he wants to do. But I think he can do it. I think he's good enough to prove himself to be ready for the world title level. But at the end of the day, Ben Simmons is still Ben Simmons, and he still needs to prove himself as a player to actually be ready for those, high level names. But I think Ben Simmons, he could play well. It's just not like, he's garbage. It's just that he really needs to work more on just getting his defense right and just making sure, he's actually ready for the transitions coming into offense. I mean, he could definitely scale well, but, at the end of the day, like Ben Simmons is not this type of character where he's, always going to be just dropping like mega points. I mean, he's going to give you some points like, off the boards. I would say what he really needs to work on is his free throw shooting. And I would hope that the Brooklyn Nets, they could definitely prioritize that, because they could definitely do well. It's just that they just need to be smart. And I think that's really like the biggest problem for the Brooklyn Nets. If they can prioritize that through Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant, and I would probably just say get rid of Kyrie Irving. He's just absolutely hot garbage. I don't think he's as good as he used to be, but the problem is just that Kyrie Irving, he's just not being put in the right spot. And I just think his mindset coming into basketball is just not there anymore. And I mean, I'm just saying that just to be nice, just to say like Kyrie Irving is not like the same player that, that many had once thought. And I think that's just simply due to his lack of discipline, as a player. And I think that's really due to the fault of him not focusing enough outside of basketball. And I think he needs to fix that. But I mean, Kyrie, he can play. He just needs to focus on his discipline as a player and actually take his basketball journey a lot more seriously, because, obviously in the playoffs, he just didn't really think of it to be that serious. And I mean, he did some damage, in the regular season, but at the end of the day, you're a professional basketball player, and you shouldn't be focusing on any other outside activities that would try to stagger your career. Because like the biggest problem that I have with Kyrie Irving is that when he's not focused in basketball, he ends up going into these weird mental states. And I think that's what's really that's what's really holding him back as a player, because he has great talent. He has, amazing skills, but at the end of the day, you cannot be going into your games, with like 1 foot in and 1 foot out in the sport. So I want to say that he could definitely improve, but the problem is just like Kyrie Irving is only hurting himself when he's not focused in in the sport. But I think Kyrie can be his best when he does focus. I'm not so sure of how well he can scale coming into basketball, but I sure can say that based off of what we see of how he progresses as a player, he has high ceilings to become a champion again. But the way he played in the playoffs, I don't want to see that version of him again, because I know he can play better. I think he just chooses not to play better because he knows he's a better player than that. And I think that's just mainly due to how he's coming into his games mentally and physically. Because, we've seen good years out of Kyrie Irving. But the problem is just that when Kyrie Irving's not focused, we obviously know what the end result will be coming out of his, career. But the issue is just that, when he's not putting himself in, in position to actually be that character, to actually do what we want to see him do, then I think that's where things kind of just go downhill. So, I don't know. Like, I think Irving, he could do a very good job. I think he has a high ceiling with what he can do in the sport, but I like to see bigger and better things from him for what he can bring. But as far as that goes, congrats to the Boston Celtics defeating the Brooklyn Nets. I didn't really see the series going that well from the beginning after game one, but the Boston Celtics did what they had to do. And unfortunately, like, I want to say that the Celtics, they will do very well heading into the next round, but I think, like, leading to the very end, that's, like, that's going to be their downfall. But I want to say that they're going to have their run ended by maybe the Milwaukee Bucks, if they beat the Bulls tonight, because I don't see my Bulls, actually winning. I actually think that my Bulls are actually doing terrible, and I don't think that they're going to scale well. But yeah, like, I'm not really, like, too sure, of, like, how the playoff picture will be looked at. But yeah, that's pretty much, like, what I have to say. Let me know what y'all think, and I will see you guys later. So salute to the mighty LDBC, and this is Kieran Rodriguez signing out. I will be going to the Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor fight. So, if you guys want to, talk to me, like, about the fight itself, I will be going live. So, just be sure to keep me updated with, like, what's going on. And, yeah, I will see you guys later. All right, peace out, and thank you. Bye.